Minister Moily, Minister Khurshid, Chief Minister Huda, Chancellor Jindal, Vice Chancellor Kumar, distinguished guests, faculty, students. It's a great pleasure to be here today on this beautiful new campus to help inaugurate this international conference on the effects of globalization in India and the United States, especially in the areas of law, governance, and business. I'm going to play a variation on the theme and talk to you a bit about how globalization is affecting higher education in India, in the United States, and around the world. I do want to congratulate Vice Chancellor Kumar and Yale Law Professor Peter Schuck, who've been instrumental in convening this conference and in fostering the strong developing connection between Jindal Global University and the Yale Law School in recent years. I've become well acquainted with this young institution through my meetings over the past 2 years with Chancellor Jindal and Vice Chancellor Kumar, and as president of an institution that's now in its 310th year of existence, I admire the founding vision, the ethos, the student culture, and the new modes of teaching and collaboration that Jindal Global University has been fostering in just a brief time. Delighted that Yale's able to make some contribution to the efforts to develop this new university through the service of Professor Schuck on the International Advisory Board and through the contributions that several members of the Yale faculty will be making during the course of this conference. The turmoil in the American economy over the last 2 years has led many to conclude that the economic and political influence of the United States around the globe is beginning to wane. Meanwhile, China and India are emerging as the heirs apparent to join the United States as political and economic superpowers. The growth of Mumbai, Shanghai, Singapore, and Hong Kong as leading financial capitals has only underscored the shift from west to east of soft political and economic power. It's now the norm rather than the exception for companies from Asia and indeed the Middle East to acquire peers and competitors across Europe and the Americas. To sustain the momentum of their rising economies, however, leaders in both Asia and the Middle East have come to recognize that the advantages that have propelled their rise, the release of low-cost labor from agriculture to industry in the case of Asia, and the abundant energy resources in the case of the Middle East, that these advantages will not persist forever. Eventually, China and India, as well as the oil oligarchies of the Middle East, will have to compete in a different arena, in the knowledge economy. And hence they've all begun to turn their attention toward the creation of stronger systems of higher education and the development, largely through universities, of stronger national capacities for advanced research. For the moment, the United States still dominates higher education, and it dominates research and development, indeed, in both cases, much more decisively than it ever dominated the world economy. For example, America produces 25% of the world's economic output, but it accounts for 40% of the world's spending on higher education and 35% of the global research and development. In 2005, the United States devoted 2.9% of its GDP on post-secondary education, while the European Union, Japan, China, and India each spent less than 1.3%. India, for example, has a yearly budget of less than 5% of government spending of less than $5 billion on government spending on higher education, whereas Yale, a single private institution, spends nearly $3 billion. Yet there are signs that U.S. preeminence in higher education may be beginning to erode. In the past 2 decades, thanks to the liberalization of student exchanges in the European Union and aggressive recruiting by nations like Australia and Singapore, the U.S. share of international students has dropped from about half of the world's total in the 1980s to less than 1/3 today. The United States' share of worldwide science and engineering publications declined from 34% in 1995 to 29% a decade later, and its share of publications cited by other scholars declined from 50% to 41% over the same period. Now, the challenge to U.S. leadership in higher education may not be immediate, but it's real, it's genuine. The scale of physical investment in China's leading universities is staggering. In Shanghai, for example, Fudan, Shanghai Jiaotong, and Tongji have all developed sprawling new campuses as larger than their original ones within the past decade. The Japanese and South Korean governments are strategically investing in their top research universities to internationalize them and to attract foreign students to their campuses at a time when their own college-age populations are declining. The Persian Gulf states are starting to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on branches of U.S. and European institutions. And perhaps most ambitiously, Saudi Arabia has opened the new King Abdullah University of Science and Technology with an endowment of at least $10 billion and a capital budget of comparable size. And finally, as all of you are well aware, India's Minister for Human Resource Development, Kapil Sibal, has laid out a very ambitious agenda to improve the quality of and access to higher education in this country, including an effort to increase the gross enrollment rate from 12 to 30% of the relevant age cohort in India by 2020. Ultimately, however, the reputation of universities is measured by the impact of their graduates and by the contributions to knowledge that is made by their faculties. A rising university can move the first needle more quickly than the second. There's no shortage of smart students in China, India, Japan, and South Korea, and there's plenty of potential in the Middle East as well. But attracting world-class researchers is a very slow process. First-rate scholars prefer to work in close proximity with other first-rate scholars, and leading universities are in effect simply agglomerations of such people. To build a faculty that includes dozens or hundreds of world-class scholars and scientists takes time. Late 19th century startups like Stanford and the University of Chicago took half a century, even more, to make it into the ranks of the world's best. Asian universities are trying to establish themselves in ways that recall these American startups of over a century ago. For some time, leading universities in Singapore and Hong Kong have been successful in attracting top scholars from the United States and the United Kingdom to relocate. I think Hong Kong attracted Raj Kumar some years ago. Today, the leading mainland Chinese universities are following suit. And if Minister Sibal succeeds with Parliament in getting the opportunity for India to have more private universities and more innovation universities freed from the pay scales of the national universities, then India will also be able to follow suit and attract leading scholars, particularly expatriate Indians, back to this country. This process of strengthening Asian universities will undoubtedly move forward, and with it is coming very innovative forms of global collaboration. Both Fudan University and Peking University, for example, have persuaded top scientists from Yale to split their time between China and the West. The Chinese provide abundant space and research staff to support the efforts of Western scientists, which helps to leverage their productivity. And at the same time, this allows younger Chinese faculty and graduate students to benefit from involvement in cutting-edge research led by professors from the US, in this case from Yale. The bet is that over time, the younger faculty who work with leading scientists from abroad will develop into world-class scientists themselves. And meanwhile, the productivity of the US-based scientists is multiplied significantly. These types of arrangements illustrate why the rise of Asian universities should be viewed by universities in the US and the UK not as a threat, but as an opportunity. International collaboration in research is a positive-sum game, and the gains are shared by both sides. Beyond the private benefits that are gathered by Asian universities and their Western collaborators, there are social benefits reaped by everyone because most of the pre-commercial knowledge that's produced by basic research is a public good, available to other scientists and engineers and scholars worldwide as building blocks in creating useful products and curing disease. And so a stronger global capability in research will benefit all nations. The same argument can be made about strengthening educational capabilities as opposed to research capabilities around the world. And in an increasingly interdependent world, there's growing consensus among educators that developing the capacity for cross-cultural understanding must be an essential feature of a 21st century education. This educational goal is best attained by providing students with overseas experiences as part of their course of study. And often, such experiences consist of spending time at foreign universities. To the extent that educational programs improve around the world, the overseas experiences of US and UK and European students will also improve. And so once again, it's not only the private gains that accrue to exchange students that matter. Better education around the world will translate into better informed citizens and a more productive global workforce. Because solving the great problems that confront both our societies, poverty, infectious disease, nuclear proliferation, global warming, so forth, because solving these problems will require international cooperation, better educated global citizens with the capacity for cross-cultural understanding will benefit all of us. So let me summarize. What I'm arguing is that the shift to more widely distributed knowledge creation around the world, to greater levels of excellence in universities in the rising nations of China and India and elsewhere in Asia, is a good thing, universally a good thing. It strengthens competition, but it also affords tremendous opportunities for new forms of collaboration. No doubt, the list of the world's top 20 universities today, containing 15 or 17 US universities, depending on your list, that list is going to change in the years ahead, no doubt. The National University of Singapore, for example, is already within striking distance. And Peking and Tsinghua universities have the expressed goal, supported by tremendous spending of the Chinese government, to get into that select company. If the Indian Parliament is willing to unleash this nation's human talent by changing the rules that govern universities and by investing substantially in basic research, India too will become a player at the highest level. India's joining the race will benefit everyone. Top universities in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Europe should welcome the rise of Asia's universities and recognize that the whole world will benefit from their success. I hope that stimulates your thinking about the benefits of globalization, which I believe extends into the areas that will be covered in this conference, law, governance, and business. And I want to once again extend my greetings and congratulations to Chancellor Jindal, Vice Chancellor Kumar for their vision and inspiration in creating the new Jindal Global University. Thank you very much.